My parents said the perfect wedding gift for my sister was me leaving the family. But before I share my story, please take a minute of your precious time to support our channel. Your support and love keeps us going. My name is Kendrick Ellison, and at 34 I thought I'd built a life that ran on clean logic. If/else, inputs/outputs, need answers. Nothing in my repository prepared me for the night my parents said the quiet part out loud. If you want to give your sister the perfect wedding gift, don't come. In fact, step away from the family completely. I didn't bargain. I packed. I took my keys. I closed their door like a period at the end of a chapter. I grew up in suburban Maryland, the kind of cul-de-sac where lawns matched heights like they'd been measured with a ruler. My father, Gerald, was a polished corporate attorney. My mother, Denise, ran a thriving property staging company. From the street, we looked picture perfect. Spring photos on Hilton Head Island, coordinated holiday cards, a colonial with shutters that matched the mailbox. Inside, the math never balanced. My sister Simone and I did not receive the same equation of love. It started in kid-sized ways. I'd bring home straight A's in advanced math and hear, "That's what we expect from you, Kendrick." Simone would scrape by a class she disliked, and we'd be at her favorite restaurant by Saturday. "She works so hard," Mom would say, as if effort only counted when it didn't come from me. Science fairs became my battleground. 6th grade, I built a working solar array that powered a clock. Dad glanced at it on his way out the door. Simone had a jazz solo and said, "Interesting. We can't be late." I won first place. My trophy collected dust in my room, while Simone's recital programs were framed in the living room like museum pieces. By 14, I was writing utilities to sort Dad's client files and learning low-level memory tricks for fun. He skimmed my code and suggested debate team. "What gets you into the right rooms isn't syntax, son." When I said I wanted to build software for a living, Mom sighed. "Computers are a phase. Law. Medicine. Something people respect." Senior year split us. I chose Prairie State University, a public school with a top-tier computer science program that offered me a full ride. I passed on Riverton University, a prestige name with prestige debt. "We gave you every advantage," Dad said, "and you repay us with small thinking." I told him Prairie State's CS ranking beat Riverton's that year and I'd graduate without loans. "Practical," Mom repeated like it tasted bitter. 2 years later, when Simone picked a pricey liberal arts college with middling outcomes, my parents threw confetti. "She's following her heart." They glowed. Never mind the tuition bills that bent their budget while I worked part-time despite my scholarship. After graduation, I joined a Chicago startup and sprinted. By my early 30s, I'd architected an anomaly detection engine that earned a patent, moved into a sunlit South Loop apartment, and led a security team that shipped on schedule. Promotions landed. My parents barely looked up. "Computers," Dad would say, flicking his wrist. "Your cousin Jamal just made partner." Then Simone started dating Dorian Caldwell. The Caldwells, black, old money adjacent, owners of a boutique hospitality group with rooftop lounges and glossy magazine spreads, traveled in rooms my parents dreamed about. Dorian's mother knows a lieutenant governor. Mom began slipping into conversation. His sister's on a 40 under 40 list. Suddenly, my parents had a new religion, optics. At a dinner that was supposedly to celebrate my promotion, Dad cut into my story about scaling a zero-trust rollout. "Have you considered a title that sounds weightier? Developer lacks gravitas." When Simone scrolled photos from a Caldwell Lake retreat, my parents leaned in like disciples. "Kendrick," Mom said without looking up, "let Simone's friend Tiana help your wardrobe. First impressions matter." Driving home, I understood the exchange rate. My achievements were in a currency my parents didn't value. They traded in access and shine. I brought throughput and uptime. Still, some stubborn kernel in me kept running. Maybe one day I'd compile into a son they could finally admire. The special family occasion came at Trattoria Aurelia, the kind of room where the menu wins awards and prices hide. My parents double confirmed I'd take time off to attend. Dorian went to one knee. The chandelier made the ring catch fire. I stood and toasted with real feeling. "To Simone, joy in the life you're building." I meant it. At the bar, Dorian clapped my shoulder. "Simone says you do something with computers." "I'm a software engineer, security specialization." "Fascinating," he said, clearly unfascinated. We've got a guy in Nairobi who handles our website cheap. Between us, what's the ballpark on your paycheck? I'm starting a foundation for tech trades. You should contribute. I excused myself and found Mom praising me to Marilyn Caldwell for redesigning my place and hiring a top Chicago designer. None of it was true. It hit me then. My parents had begun rewriting me to fit Caldwell optics. The wedding machine roared to life, and with it, the sanding of my edges. Fitting at Maison Lyle, Dad announced, Caldwell approved tailors. You'll need a proper suit. I'm not a groomsman. You'll need a suit, he repeated, eyeing my living room like it offended him. Mom floated the idea of hosting the engagement mixer at my apartment. We should show the Caldwells our family has taste. Translation, make your home a showroom. Texts from Mom arrived daily. Barbers, speech coaches, watches that signal stature. Then the parade of women. Caroline, Caldwell cousin, art history PhD, Eliza, partner's daughter, Victoria, 3 charity boards. Every introduction came with a quiet order, become someone else. At the engagement party, thankfully at a hotel after I refused to host, Simone pulled me aside. Try harder, she hissed. Dorian's parents noticed you checking your phone during his dad's toast. I was getting a breach alert. I verified we weren't compromised. This is exactly what Mom and Dad mean. You don't understand priorities. I'm here, I said. That matters. She didn't answer. The exclusions began like paper cuts. Invitation with no +1. No space in engagement photos. Bachelor party, wedding party only. Family brunch, immediate family and wedding party, a rule apparently elastic enough to snap around me. I was being asked to occupy less space, to speak less, to somehow be visible and invisible at once. 2 months before the ceremony, over pot roast at my parents' home with the Caldwells present, Howard Caldwell delicately mentioned traditional guests who were image-conscious. The room's temperature fell. Suggestions followed, more traditional haircut, classic tux. None of it was the point. After dessert, Dad told me to wait in his study. When they finally came in, Denise didn't circle. Kendrick, your presence could introduce tension. If you truly want to give Simone the perfect gift. Dad finished it. Consider not attending. Mom made it plain. Disappear for that day. It would make things easier. I stood. If I'm not welcome at the most important family event, I'm not truly family. I went home with the windows down and the radio off, and by sunrise I'd made a decision. If disappearance is the gift, I'll give it fully and on my terms. I woke to a plan as clear as fresh glass. If my absence was the prized gift, I wouldn't half-wrap it. I'd sever every cord they used to tug me back, and I'd do it with receipts. First came the numbers. Years ago, my parents had set up a family investment account, a shared pool that grew because I kept feeding it after my patent check cleared. I was the one who tracked allocations, rebalanced, tax loss harvested. That morning, I logged in. The balance sat just shy of $520,000. I exported statements, highlighted every deposit from me, and moved my documented contributions, $371,000 plus accrued gains, into my personal account. I left theirs untouched to the penny. No spite, just arithmetic. Then I called Renee Alvarez, the agent who'd helped me buy my South Loop place. Renee, I'm listing today. Is everything okay? It will be. We photographed at noon, went live by evening, reviewed 3 offers by midweek, and accepted 1 over asking with a 21-day close. The speed felt like the universe agreeing, move. While escrow ticked, I pulled thread after thread from the family web. I resigned from my ceremonial seat on Dad's foundation. I transferred my tiny voting shares in Mom's staging company back to her. I removed my name as secondary on their life insurance policies. Each signature felt like slipping a weight off my shoulders I hadn't known I carried. The packing surprised me. I called my apartment minimalist, but the drawers told the truth. Performances tucked between socks and cables. Monogrammed leather folios I never used. Books with inscriptions from Dad that read like speeches, not love. Photos where my smile looked rented. I kept what was mine in spirit. My rigs, a favorite hoodie with the elbows gone thin, the dog-eared paperbacks that taught me to think in systems, and a small tin of real keepsakes. A tassel, a smooth creek stone from a solo hike at 19, a birthday card from Rashad that simply read, I see you. The day escrow closed. Sunlight made clean rectangles on empty hardwood. I stood in the doorway with the keys, heavy in my palm. Once, these keys meant achievement. Now they were the last shackle. I handed them to the property manager, felt the latch catch behind me, and listened to the silence like a benediction. That afternoon I sent a single, spare email to my parents. As requested, I will not attend Simone's wedding. To avoid complications, I have removed myself from shared financial ties and positions. My condo has been sold. For any necessary communication, contact my attorney, info attached. I wish Simone peace in her marriage. Kendrick. I expected calls, storms, bargaining. I received silence. No ringing phone. No indignant paragraphs. No, come home so we can talk. Their quiet told the truth loud. My absence was, in fact, the outcome they preferred, as long as it cost them nothing. So I finished disappearing. I shut down the social accounts they lurked on, changed the number, set up a post office box, and drew a smaller circle around the people who had actually earned a place in it. At the center stood Rashad, my brother in everything but blood. Over pepper soup at his place on a drizzly Thursday, I laid it out. That's not just dysfunction, he said when I finished. That's cruelty dressed in cashmere. I kept wondering if I misheard, I admitted. If I exaggerated it in my head. You didn't. They asked you to erase yourself. You chose not to be erased. You chose you. The dam at home didn't break, it bowed. A cousin texted that my parents were workshopping stories about my needing a break from public life. I didn't chase the rumor. Let them curate whatever narrative played well in the rooms they worshipped. For once, I wasn't their exhibit. When the invitations, fittings, and seating charts shifted into the final sprint, I booked a cabin in the Blue Ridge, north of Asheville. No good reception by design. If my family married into appearances that weekend, I wanted trees, wind, and the kind of quiet that doesn't judge. The morning I left, Chicago glittered like it wanted to keep me. I loaded the last box into a rented SUV, set the navigation for a pin in the mountains, and drove south with the windows cracked and the radio off. I didn't look in the rear view to see if anyone was waving goodbye. Up in the hills, the cabin smelled like cedar and rain. In the evenings, I sat on the porch and let darkness arrive without a single notification. I breathed until my bones remembered how. I woke with the sun and let the day come without schedules. For the first time since my parents said gift, I felt something other than anger. It was steadiness, the kind that doesn't need permission. The wedding day came wrapped in mist. The Blue Ridge peaks looked like gray shoulders under a quilt of cloud, and I woke in the cabin before sunrise. Somewhere down in Maryland, my family was dressing in coordinated shades and fixing smiles. I was lacing hiking boots. I climbed until my lungs pulled like bellows. Sweat soaked through my shirt even in the cool air, and every step up the ridge dulled the sharp pictures in my head. Dad walking Simone down the aisle, Mom misty-eyed in the front pew, my chair left empty with no explanation that would hold water. By noon, cell service vanished. The silence was a mercy. Coming down, I caught a sight that froze me, an SUV I knew too well parked by the cabin. Rashad stood on the porch, six-pack in one hand, pizza box in the other. "Thought you shouldn't be alone today," he said, as if it were the simplest math in the world. We sat on the porch rails while twilight spread over the forest, eating pizza straight from the box, drinking beer that tasted cold and grounding. For a long time, we didn't talk. Then he looked at me and said, "You want to know what happened?" I swallowed. "Not sure I do." "You do. Not because you regret leaving, but because you need to close the loop." He was right. I nodded. "My cousin catered," he admitted. Texted me updates. But truth? I was there. I jerked my head. "What?" "Dorian invited me. Prep school connection. Figured somebody had to be there for you even if you weren't." It stunned me that Dorian, the man I'd written off as slick ambition, had reached across the absence more than my own parents did. Rashad leaned back against the post. Ceremony? Smooth. Simone looked radiant. Reception? Chaos. Everyone kept asking about you. Your mom's sorority sisters, Dad's colleagues, even Dorian's extended kin who'd heard about Simone's brilliant brother in tech. Every excuse they gave contradicted the last. First you had a work emergency, then you were ill, then you were abroad. People noticed. I almost laughed. The vanishing act they choreographed left a bigger crater than my presence ever could. The real hit, Rashad continued, came during Simone's toast. She'd had champagne, started talking about her big brother teaching her to ride a bike. She started crying, asking out loud why you weren't there, right in front of the room. I closed my eyes. The one thing I hadn't wanted, to ruin her day, had happened anyway. Bradley's mother snatched the mic, smoothed it over, Rashad said. But the whispering didn't stop. Your parents looked like glass about to crack. We sat in silence while the stars blinked awake. Finally, Rashad asked, "So, what now?" I stared at the mountains, the beer warming in my hand. Now, I built something new, away from all that. The weeks after were calm in a way that felt staged by God. I extended my cabin rental month to month, logged in remotely for work, and breathed mountain air while planning what came next. The condo sale left me cushioned. For the first time, every choice was mine alone. 17 days after the wedding, the dam broke. Tyrell, my cousin, texted, "Heads up. Expect contact." He wasn't lying. My inbox filled like floodwater. "Your behavior is unforgivable," Aunt Geneva wrote. "To miss your only sister's wedding, shameful. You embarrassed us all," Uncle Victor added. None of them had asked what actually happened. They didn't want my truth. They wanted the story my parents were selling. Then came the first direct line, Dad's email. "Kendrick, your disappearing stunt humiliated us. If your goal was to punish, congratulations. The Caldwells may forgive, others won't. Selling your condo, withdrawing funds, irrational. Send your address and number at once. Enough of this. Dad." No acknowledgement of their words. No memory of telling me the greatest gift was my absence. Only rage that I'd taken them literally. 3 days later, Mom tried another angle. "Kendrick, we're worried about your mental health. This extreme reaction suggests instability. We only want what's best." Simone returned early from her honeymoon, too upset to enjoy it. "Is that what you wanted? Come home. We can work this out. Love, Mom." Gaslight packages care. She flipped their request into my breakdown. Finally, Simone herself reached out. "Kendrick, I don't understand. Mom and Dad won't explain why you missed my wedding. They just say you're going through something. Whatever they did or said, I'm sorry. I miss my brother. Please talk to me." Simone. Her note stopped me. There was no manipulation in it. Maybe they hadn't told her the truth. I wrote back short. Ask them what they said was the greatest gift you could get from me. Press until they answer honestly. I'm glad you're happy with Dorian. K. I hit send and leaned back. If she wanted the truth, she'd have to drag it out of them herself. Word trickled through Tyrell. The Caldwells weren't as forgiving as my parents pretended. Invitations dried up. Deals slipped. Bradley's father even questioned Dad's family values. But the shock came later. Simone challenging them openly, walking out of a family dinner when they minimized what they told me. For the first time in her life, she defied them. And in that defiance, I felt a thin filament of hope I hadn't expected. When the leaves browned and dropped in Maryland, I signed a new lease 3,000 miles west. Seattle became my city of choice, far enough that no casual visit could cross the distance. I took an offer at Horizon Systems, a mid-sized tech company that wanted me as lead security architect. From the 22nd floor of a downtown high-rise, the Puget Sound spread out like a promise. My new apartment was nothing like the one I'd left. Gone were the glossy pieces picked to impress visitors. I filled the rooms with furniture that fit me, a weathered leather chair for reading, shelves stacked with science fiction beside encryption manuals, art that jolted instead of soothed. For the first time, my living space didn't feel staged. It felt inhabited. Rashad visited that winter. He stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows and whistled. "Man, this place feels like you. Your old condo was a showroom." That comment landed deeper than he knew. For years I'd built my life like a lobby, polished for approval. Now, for the first time, the fingerprints were mine. Through Rashad, I met Imani, a freelance photographer with an eye that found beauty in alleyways and graffiti as easily as in skylines. Our first coffee stretched into dinner and then a midnight walk along the waterfront. She told me, "I like that you don't dress your words up. You just say them." It startled me how easy it felt. With her, I didn't code switch, didn't trim edges. She accepted me exactly as I arrived. News from back east came in drips, always through Tyrell. Your dad lost the Caldwell contract. They keep fumbling explanations about why you weren't at the wedding. None of it sticks. Simone called them out in front of everyone. Hearing she'd begun defending me shook something loose. For years she'd been the favored one. Now she was pushing back. Months later, a letter in Simone's handwriting landed in my mailbox. Cream paper, heavy ink. Kendrick, I finally asked them directly what they told you before the wedding. Dad admitted they asked you not to come, so the Caldwells wouldn't judge. I was horrified. I never asked for that. I only learned the truth because I pressed. I am ashamed it took me this long to see it. Dorian says his first impression of you was that you were the only genuine one. He was right. If you'll allow it, I want to build a real relationship with you, separate from theirs. Love, Simone. I read it 3 times. Hurt still lived in me. Years of being sidelined don't vanish in a paragraph. But her words carried sincerity. After a week of thought, I emailed back. Trust, once broken, rebuilds slowly. But I'm open to trying. That spring, I started seeing Dr. Reynolds, a therapist specializing in family trauma. She helped me untangle the knots I thought were just normal. You didn't just walk away, she told me once. You rejected a false story of your worth. That's survival. That's courage. Meanwhile, life with Imani deepened. 10 months in, she moved her boxes of camera gear into my office space. Didn't think I'd ever live in the clouds, she joked, setting lenses on a shelf. But I'd follow you anywhere. The casual certainty in her voice still startled me. I'd grown used to love being conditional. With her it wasn't. A year passed since I walked away. That's when another letter came, this time in Dad's unmistakable pen, but with words I'd never expected. Son, no excuse exists for what I said to you. To tell a child their disappearance would be a gift, there's no justification. I let ambition and appearances blind me. I failed you as a father. I see that now. If you will allow it, I want to apologize in person. I cannot undo the harm, but I carry the weight of it daily. Dad! I stared at that letter for weeks. No manipulation I could detect. No dodging. Just regret. I brought it to Dr. Reynolds. She said, an apology doesn't erase harm, but it can open a door if you choose to step through. In the end, I agreed to meet him. Not at the family house, never there. A neutral restaurant in Cambridge, with Simone present, 13 months after the night I chose absence. I flew east with a calm I hadn't known before. Whatever happened at that table, I wasn't the boy chasing approval anymore. I was a man who had built a life without them. The restaurant in Cambridge was deliberate, neutral ground, no ghosts from childhood. Farm to table, white linen, quiet corners. I got there early and asked for sparkling water. Simone arrived first, elegant but jittery, fidgeting like she used to before piano recitals. We hugged, brief but real. You look good, she said, eyes scanning me. Happy. I am, I answered. Seattle suits me better than Maryland ever did. Dad came a few minutes later. His hair had gone fully gray, his stride slower. The confident lawyer's armor wasn't there. Instead, he looked tentative. Kendrick, he said, voice catching. Thank you for agreeing to this. We danced around safe topics through appetizers. Weather, flights, the restaurant's reputation. But when entrees came, he set his fork down and met my eyes. What your mother and I told you before Simone's wedding was unforgivable, he said, steady now. We put social standing above our son. There's no justification. I had braced for deflection. None came. Instead, he went further. We were wrong to dismiss your work. Wrong to compare. Wrong to shape you into someone else. After you left, I finally understood what we lost. Your integrity, your refusal to compromise yourself. Simone reached across the table. When I found out what they told you, it shook me. I started rethinking everything. How they always made you feel less. You weren't. You were just different. I listened, wary. I'd spent too long reading between their lines. But for once, there was no spin, only a naked truth that sat heavy on the table. I hear your apology, I said carefully. But you told me to disappear. I did, and I built a life without you. That can't be undone with dessert and coffee. We don't expect it to, Dad said. I'm not asking you to reset, only to see if we can build something new, with boundaries this time. Boundaries. That word coming from him meant more than he realized. Back in Seattle, I told Imani everything as we watched the sun drop behind the Olympics. "Do you think you'll reconcile?" she asked. "I don't know about reconcile," I said, "but maybe redefine." She squeezed my hand. "That's the difference. Before, you needed their approval. Now you don't. You'll only let them back in if it honors who you are." She was right. Over the next months, Simone and I traded texts, then calls, then visits. For the first time in our lives, we were siblings without a script. Dad and I emailed occasionally, light cautious. Mom never reached out, still pretending nothing had happened. When Simone and Dorian visited Seattle that fall, we walked Pike Place, ferried across the water, shared wine on my balcony. Bradley, slick as ever, raised his glass and said, "Funny, I thought you were the odd one out. Turns out you were the first one brave enough to walk out." Simone nodded. "Watching you choose yourself gave me permission to question everything. I'm learning." Later that night, Imani found me flipping through a box of old family photos. "Second thoughts?" she asked. "No," I said. "Just perspective. They shaped me, but they don't define me." A year and a half after the night in that wood-paneled study, I got a job offer in California. A dream role that would push my career even higher. Before, I'd have agonized. What will Dad think? Will this distance kill any chance of repairing things? Now, I measured it only against my own values and said yes. I told Dad and Simone without anxiety. Dad's reply was simple: "Congratulations. Proud of you. No guilt, no strings." That alone felt like progress. As I packed for the move west, I realized the paradox. My parents once told me the greatest gift I could give was my disappearance. They had no idea that in vanishing from their script, I would finally appear fully in my own life. So here's what I've learned. Sometimes the bravest act is walking away. Sometimes closing a door permanently is the only way to step into yourself. The family I was born into asked me to erase myself. Instead, I rewrote the story, one where my worth doesn't hinge on their approval but on my truth. One where I'm surrounded by people, like Rashad, like Imani, like Simone slowly becoming herself, who love me because of my differences, not despite them. And maybe that's the lesson for anyone listening. If the people who should see you choose not to, don't shrink smaller. Disappear from their illusion and reappear in your own reality. In the end, I learned the truth my parents never taught me. Disappearing from their version of me wasn't a loss, it was liberation. I stopped chasing approval I'd never earn and built a life rooted in authenticity, love, and choice. Sometimes the greatest gift isn't what you give to others. It's the courage to finally give yourself permission to exist, fully and unapologetically. If my story speaks to you, if you've ever had to step away from toxic expectations to find your real self, share your journey in the comments. Hit like if you believe choosing yourself is never selfish, it's survival. And subscribe for more stories about resilience, healing, and redefining what family truly means. Because remember, closing one door can be the start of your most beautiful beginning.